Hello, hello. My name is Sharp Eyes,
And I am Crucifix.
and this is
WeCast.
where you play and
And
we cast.
WeCast.
Yep. Welcome to another episode. What episode are we on?
I don't even know. It's probably like 70. Episode 70,
It's a lot
most
of
likely.
episodes. So basically, the whole point of this YouTube channel or Twitch channel, depending on whatever you're watching this on, is we're pretty much trying to cast your game. So I mean, if you play a good game and you're like, hey, like I played a great game, I want this casted, and I want to be recognized for my skills. I mean, like
Who doesn't want their game casted? I remember I would always watch the pro games and be like, "Wow, that's so cool. I wish I could have my game cast." But here at WeCast, not only can you have your game casted, but you can have it done for free. So just send us your best and brightest, and we will cast no matter what the skill level. Really, we'll cast any game out there.
yep. It actually doesn't matter if you're Wood League or
Yep,
Grandmaster League,
yep.
you name it.
Actually, you know what? We don't even want those Grandmaster Leagues. Get out of here. We don't want you. We only want the coolest people, which is Masters through Wood League. Just kidding. No, but seriously, yeah, just send us your games and we'll cast them.
Absolutely. All right. Without further ado, let's get things started here.
Let's do it.
All right. Switching to the game panel here, and pressing play.
Game resumed.
Awesome.
All right. So spawning in the upper left-hand corner here, we have our red Protoss Spectre.
And in the lower right-hand corner, we have our green Zerg Oho Matz. Now,
Oh,
I have
Matz
actually
indeed.
played against Matz before, and I can tell you that he beat me very soundly several times because he is a good player.
He's actually a very good player. I think
He,
I played against him ZVZ a few weeks ago, I think, and he beat me
uh,
pretty soundly as well.
from what I have heard, he is just a macro monster.
Macro monster indeed.
Indeed.
So, Crucifix, I think we should have an indeed count.
I think we should too. The problem is, you know what? Here, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna get a pencil and a piece of paper out here. I'm going old school, and I'm going to count the indeeds. Does that one count? The one I just said?
Indeed it does.
Oh, and that one does too. Indeed. There's 3. Okay, let's do this. Now, should I use Roman numerals or should I just write the number out?
I think you should use hieroglyphics.
Hieroglyphics, indeed.
And that is yet another count for the indeed.
There it is again. Oh my gosh, this is getting out of control.
Indeed it is.
Okay, so now let's see what's going on here. We got some probes. We got some zerglings. We have no zerglings actually. We have drones, and we got some overlords. Now, what do you think the overlords? He says S word lol, and then Spectre says X capital D, which I think stands for
XE
but,
actually stands for ex first Dominicus, which doesn't really
X
mean anything.
X Dominicus. So when overlords are just floating around, what do you think they're thinking about?
Honestly, I think they're thinking about their next meal. I mean, overlords love to eat food. I mean,
Indeed,
indeed.
it's actually been known that overlords will eat so much, and I don't know if you know this, but overlords actually eat creep.
Really?
Yeah,
I actually did not
they,
know this.
they eat creep because it's a delicacy in the Zerg world. It's actually not a delicacy; it's everywhere, which is annoying. But there's plenty to go around, and they eat it. And they've been known to eat so much that they'll throw it up just everywhere, constantly, and all over the ground. So
Now,
that's never.
Crucifix, do you think this affects their fondness for creep? I mean, like if you think about it, if you're eating something and then you're barfing it all up, wouldn't that make you not want to eat it in the future?
You would think so, but tell that to an overlord because they can't seem to get enough of it. Now, we will see that We will see that there's a Forge Fast Expand going down from the Protoss player, a very popular build. We do have a Photon Cannon, a Gateway coming up to make that wall. Plus this, actually it's an inactive probe here, but everybody has a few idle probes every once in a while, so we can't blame him too much for that. It looks like he is going to go build that pylon to continue the wall, and eventually we'll have a Zealot standing there, proud and ready to go. And
Loudly and
wow,
proudly.
what a build from the Zerg player. We already have 3 hatches down. What do you make of this?
This is definitely the Stefano Roachmax build.
It is. What does that mean? Because I actually don't know.
Basically, maxing at 200 by 12 minutes.
That is insane. You can actually do that? That's crazy. So, so you build 3 hatches basically right after. Do you build 2 hatches and then pool and then a third?
So basically, you go pool first,
Oh, wow.
then hatch, and then at around the 4 to 4:10 minute mark, you begin your third hatch, and then you keep on droning until you saturate all your bases, and then you max roaches with the +1 upgrade. But the only bad thing about this build is that you have to know what your opponent's doing pretty well.
Okay, so
Because
basically, oh, go ahead. Yeah.
because basically, if you get attacked during your droning phase, well, that's gonna suck for you.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only army unit that the Zerg has is literally 1 Zergling. Is that it? Is it 1 Zergling? Let me look at his unit.
Units tab, 2 Zerglings actually.
Oh, okay, so double the army I thought he had. So no, pretty good.
100%.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean that sounds very dangerous. Do you ever use this build, or is it a little too risky for you?
Personally, I think it's a little bit too risky for me as I am a scrub diamond player.
A scrub diamond player. Okay.
But
Well, I'm a super good gold player, so I'm obviously better. So, but we do see that. I like how he is at least using the few Zerglings he has to get some map control. Found that pylon and took it out. And I think that the Zerg player is in a fine spot right now. He saw that his opponent was fast expanding with that Forge Fast Expand, and he took that opportunity to say, you know what, if he's going to fast expand, and wow, the Protoss player even took a third base, so we're going to see a very heavy macro-oriented play from both players. But yeah, he said, I saw that Forge Fast Expand. I'm going to take this opportunity to do a build where I'm literally completely vulnerable for a good amount of time, but on the flip side, come 12 minutes, I'm gonna wreck the world.
absolutely. And it will be looking like this Zergling here has spotted the third base of the Protoss.
Yes, and I think he will get this photon cannon. I think they will get. Oh no, but the Zealot's coming to the rescue. Will he get it? And nope. The mothership core comes in. The cannon is now built, and those Zerglings can't quite get the photon cannon down. But that was a good try from the Zerglings. I was proud of them.
Very
and I
good
like how
try
he's
indeed.
he's not only killing these rocks here next to his base, but he's also killing these extra rocks that will create a very easy wall off from the outside to his third. So, that's always what you want to do when you take your third on Athlon and Waste. You kill the rocks in your base, and then you kill the rocks outside of your base.
So in and out, in and out.
In and out, in and out. That's what she said. So we do have a fourth base up for the Zerg player. He does now have a fully saturated main, nat, and third base, except his natural could use one more probe if he wanted. But it's looking like he's using his natural as his building. Like that's the base he's using his probes to build from. So his drones to build from. So there's always going to be a few less at his natural, but hopefully that he has his he's always producing as well, which you always want to be producing drones. Very important.
So it actually looks like he won't be going the Roach Max build. Instead, he will be transitioning into more of a late game oriented play here, as we see a in position fit and a Hydralisk Den being
I
thrown
see.
up.
It's looking like he just wanted to get as much economy going as possible, as fast as possible, because you know, that the build you described to me, even you know, even if you didn't want to necessarily go the Roach Max build, you can still use it to establish just a really great economy early on.
Absolutely. Oh, and it does look like this spire over here will be hidden by these overlords, and it. But
Mm,
one thing to note is that there is no creep being vomited out. So
there isn't. It looks like the overlords have been watching their weight lately, and we do have an observer looking at the Zerg base, going to see everything that the Zerg is up to right now. Do you think that there's going to be a response from the Protoss from this?
it actually looks like the Protoss player will
Is
be taking
throwing
it
down
slow as
a
he will
huge
be
number of
making
people.
units slowly.
And we do have a fleet beacon down from the Protoss player. It's looking like we are having just an extremely late game oriented build from both players. We're going to see a mothership core apparently, and we are also seeing just a phenomenal number of gates thrown down by the Protoss player. We now have Stargate, a Templar Archives, a fleet beacon, just a ton of gates. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 in his main alone. 10, 10 if you count as natural. So 10 gates. Just everything a Protoss player could ever build, I think, has been built. And kind of the same coming out of the Zerg player as well. I think we are going to be in a. I think we're going to have a treat this game of just one epic giant battle is what I'm really hoping for.
Honestly, I think that both players are playing extremely passive. I mean,
Really, they are, yeah. And I'm surprised we have. Oh, and we have a fourth going down from the Protoss player now. And you know, it's normal for your fourth to be a little later than the Zergs. And I like how he has this wall already built, ready to defend his fourth base. And his Nexus was actually the last to be built. So he's ready to go with this defense here. A lot of cannons going down. And he doesn't want his economy to be messed with, to say the least.
I have to say that the Matz is actually one of the better platinum players that I've actually seen. I mean,
Yeah,
his macro is pretty good.
yeah. You know, I'll see that. You know, this will happen a lot. I mean, you know, not to like take me for example. I'm a gold player, so you know I'm not amazing, and I think that one of the things that keeps me in the gold league is the fact that I am so passive, and a lot of times my opponent is very aggressive, and that's what gets me is because by the time that I push out, my opponent has already done too much damage. But in this case, we see Matz also being aggressive, but Matz is also being passive, but his opponent is as well. So in this case, even if usually being passive was something that hurt Matz, in this case being passive isn't hurting him at all because his opponent is being just as passive. So as far as like advantage disadvantage goes, I think that both players are are right on the same level, except for the fact that the Zerg player has almost 4,000 minerals and almost no gas.
Which is
But
quite a difference.
it is, and the Protoss player, I felt has been spending his minerals very wisely, or at least has been keeping them low. I don't know if his army composition is pretty crazy right now. He's got zealots, he's got phoenixes, he's got tempests, he's got colossi, he's got immortals. Oh, and here we go. And wow, this is going to be crazy. Let's see here. Wow, I don't even know what to make of this. We got bungles going down, we have colossi, we have infestors, we have broodlords. The phoenixes are taking out the broodlords, okay, but I would say the Zerg player's in the lead except for all these tempests still on the field, and the Zerg player really doesn't have, he has no anti-air except for these two hydras which are about to die. So this is so crazy because the Protoss player has no ground except for all these cannons. There's no way those roaches are going to get through there. Wow, this is so funny because the Protoss player only has Tempest, but the Zerg player only has roaches. Oh, but now he's got the corruptors, but I don't think it's enough corruptors. And the micro from Spectre is pretty good as he pulls back his weakened Tempest.
If you notice, the Tempest actually deals triple damage versus massive units, which is
Indeed.
quite a number here, as they do take down Broodlords in a few hits.
They do, and they also... I'm surprised Broodlords are considered massive, not because, you know, they're not a very late game unit. Not because they're not a very late game unit, just because they're not that big. You don't want to... Like, that's one of the reasons that no one ever goes... Or not usually ever goes battle cruisers versus Protoss, because, like, if you have 1 or 2 Tempests out, they will just destroy battle cruisers because of how good they are against massive units. Meanwhile, we have 2 carriers, 5 Tempests, lots of Zealots, but we have a huge Zergling, Ultralisk, Hydralisk army from the Zerg. What do you think is going to happen here, Sharp Eyes?
I think that these Hydras will be going down. I mean, those carriers actually wreck Hydras.
Yeah, those carriers in general are just so good. But you know, the Zerg player does have a bigger army right now, but he's still at kind of the same problem as he was before, where, oh wow, all of these units are such low health for the Protoss player. There's so few units that can hit them. But yeah, he's at kind of the same problem, where he has so many the Zerg player has so many units, but not that many units that can hit those the heavy air units of the Protoss.
Heavy air indeed.
Indeed. But yeah, this is a very interesting game so far. Huge warp in from the Protoss player. So many High Templars immediately being turned into Archons to take care of the swarm that the Zerg is presenting, and it's looking. What are you? I think the Zerg player is transitioning into Hydras now to get a lot more anti-air. What do you think the Zerg player should be doing right now, or do you think he's making the right decision?
I think that the Zerg player's composition is pretty good versus air.
Yeah.
But he could stand to use a little bit more actual air units in his composition.
He is just shredding this army right now, though. I thought he finally got enough Hydras out. It felt like he kept coming to the battlefield with just not quite enough, you know? But now I feel like he has enough. Do you think that some mutas would have been good in this mix, or are you glad that he just stuck with Hydra for his anti-air?
I honestly think that possibly during the assault he could have built some mutas and ran them in the mineral line of this Protoss over here.
Actually, from both sides, there's been almost no harassment of the economy of any sort. But right as I say that, Zealots run into the 5th base of the Zerg, but they're going to be cleaned up pretty quickly by these roaches, so not too much damage done here. And it looks like this was a oh, and these roaches are just going to let this extractor go down. Like they're not even gonna clean up that Zealot at all. But it's looking like he just didn't notice, and then the extractor will be rebuilt in the upper right hand corner there. But yeah, like I was saying, there's really almost no harassment of the economies at all. It's been army v army this entire game, and you know, almost the first 15 minutes of the game were nothing at all. So I just think it's not, you know, it's not the most typical way to battle that you ever see. And we do have a big engagement going down. I don't think the Protoss has enough here. These Ultralisks in the back aren't doing anything, and the Storms are good, and these cannons are even helping. I don't think the Protoss has enough army units, but have you seen all these cannons?
Those cannons were very instrumental in the battle right there.
They are. I mean, this is almost a humorous number of cannons right now. Just in this one, like, if you if you just look right outside of his natural expansion, he has I don't know, 24 cannons or something like that. That's pretty crazy. But you know, honestly, I think that's kind of what saved him right there. Even though it's not usual, he didn't have the army to fight the Zerg army, but he did have the cannons to fight them. So whatever works, you know.
Indeed. Late game, you'll actually notice that the mineral counts tend to be pretty high. So static defense is actually really good.
Yeah, because it's kind of like, especially if you get to the late game um, where there is no mineral mining because the map has been mined out. I don't. We're not anywhere close to that quite yet. But if you get to the very late game, static defense that you have set up earlier in the game is very important because it provides you DPS without taking up your supply, and that's something that that's always valuable in the very late games. And that's the same thing as that's why Zerg players like to get Brood Wars Infestors and Brood Lords, Infestors, and Swarm Hosts in the very late game because those are units that produce additional free units. And it's looking like the Zerg player is going to come in here and deny the fifth base of the Protoss. Doesn't even get a cancel there, so that's pretty rough because the Protoss player is running a little low on minerals right now.
Absolutely, and it does look like some Dark Templars will be trying to hurt this base up here, but the Zerg player has defended it with this Spore Crawler to detect.
Awesome. So, yeah, Spore Crawlers are really great, especially I really like Spore Crawlers in a base trade scenario because they feel like a unit. When they're unrooted, you can move them around just like you could an army unit. Yeah, they're not that fast, especially off creep, but they, oh, and here comes another Dark Templar just mixing itself right inside that army, gets killed immediately. Yeah, I really like Spore Crawlers in the base trade scenario because you can move it just like a unit, just like a normal unit, but it's a building. So in a base trade scenario, the opponent actually has to kill that Spore Crawler to win the game, but you can move it. You can run away just like you could any unit. So it's pretty neat that way.
So pretty much it's actually kind of like a
It's like a building.
Terran building, but
Yeah, but faster, you know, because it's not in the air, but it's much smaller, and as long as you're not revealed, good luck finding a teeny little Spore Crawler in the, like at the far reaches of the map. So
absolutely, and it will be looking like the Protoss is long distance mining here.
he is, and this isn't the first time this game either. He's been long distance mining several times this game, and a lot of players don't realize that long distance mining.
And there is an engagement. Oh my god, units are dying left and right.
Wow,
Lots of AoE damage here by the Protoss player, and the carriers will be shredding this what is left of the Zerg army.
The Zerg still has a significant supply lead. It's 123 to 200 right now, but that does take into account the units being built. These carriers are very good, especially against the small Hydra number, and I think these carriers are going to be taking out both of these Ultralisks. The Zerg player needs to move up his Hydralisk, which he just did, but I don't know if there's I don't think there's the numbers that the Zerg needs to finish this game at all right now. Are the pink zealots is that like a digital deluxe edition situation, or what's that? What's going on there?
I can't tell if you're being sarcastic.
I am. I know what's going on exactly for sure. So we do have these. We do have the changelings there, so that's good.
One interesting thing to note about these changelings is that some crafty Zerg players can actually trick Protoss players into thinking that their army is pretty big when these are actually just fake units.
Yeah, that happens a lot, and that's happened to me before, where I'll be like, oh, I'm still fighting with all these Marines, and then I realize I've lost my entire army, and I've been duped by the Zerg.
Duped indeed. As we see these bundles of storms taking out these Hydras.
Wow.
Oh my god, lots of Hydras will be going down,
good.
and these carriers should be able to finish them off. But upgraded Hydras are not to be trifled with.
No, I think these carriers. Wow, that was crazy because the Zerg had the numbers. The Zerg had the numbers to deal with all those carriers for sure. But those storms were so good, and the Zerg player decided. And I like how the carrier escaped with 20 health. But the Zerg player decided not to dodge those storms at all, and that really cost him so much because he ended up losing all those Hydras, which is such a big loss because the Hydra count was definitely good enough, and I feel like that was such a big loss from the Protoss player or from the Zerg player there.
Absolutely. I mean, those High Templars really just wrecked shop.
Speaking of High Templars, the Archons there just kind of got destroyed by those Ultralisks, and I feel like this one will as well. Carriers are doing such a good job against these Ultralisks, and if you look at this carrier right now, it has 22 kills to its name. That is a it's an executor. That's its rank right now because of how many kills it's already gotten, probably mostly against those Hydras, and it's gonna take out this Ultralisk, and wow, 10 years later, says Spectre. And I think I still don't know what's going to happen with this game. What do you think's going on here?
Well, as of now, the Zerg player is mining off a 2 base, and the Protoss player is barely mining off of 1. So it
Yeah.
looks to be like the Zerg might take this game.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, if you look at the supply count, it's 77 to 189. And most of that is probes. So so the active forces, it's 5,000 minerals worth of army from the Zerg player versus the 1,600 from the Protoss. It's only a matter of time until these carriers get taken out, which is probably a good chunk of that 1,600, and the game's over. But we may see something heroic from this cannon carrier composition. That is a triple C cannon carrier composition.
If only these cannons can uproot themselves and walk around.
That would be amazing, but unfortunately, even as the most technologically advanced race in the entire game, they can't seem to figure out the moving buildings technology that they would need to do that. So it's not going to happen for the Protoss
One
player.
interesting thing to note, it actually looks like the photon cannons are actually levitating. So
That's true. The ball is levitating on top of the circle. So, like, why if they can levitate their balls, why can't they levitate their buildings? That's the main. Is a real question here.
looking like some more research needs to be done here
Indeed.
on the planet of Protoss.
More research indeed.
And what is the Indeed counter at now?
I'm not going to tell you till the end because it's going to be such a good surprise.
Indeed it is. And
And there's the GG. And it's looking like the Protoss player just kind of felt like, well, I'm out of minerals. He took out my last mining base, even though I still have four bases worth of production. He wasn't gonna make this game last any longer than it already has. We did have almost a 40-minute game, which is quite a long one, but it has come to a close.
of course. All right, so post-game analysis time.
Looking like
What did the what can the Protoss do to better his game?
Well, it just seemed like to me like, okay, that was a passive game, but it seemed like the Protoss player just seemed like all he wanted to do that game was defend. It seemed like he just felt like he just at all times it felt like he was just thwarting aggression over and over and over again, just holding it back until eventually he got to this position where he felt like he could attack, but that position never came. He was holding off attacks the entire game, and slowly but surely the Zerg player was able to just kind of do an eventual contain, like he was able to get the Protoss player in a position where, yeah, he didn't take the best trades at all times, he didn't always win battles, but he kept the player, he kept the Protoss at 4 bases for so long that the Protoss player mined out all 4, built up an army with all of those minerals that he collected, and still couldn't win. And in the Zerg player, and Matz just just put himself in a position where he was able to kind of inch forward, take, which ended up as 6 bases, build up all this bank, and he was just able to remax his army at a whim all the time. So even though the Protoss player was killing his entire army over and over and over again, it really didn't matter because Matz always had enough to remax. And that was, I feel like just the passiveness that Spectre um, employed there put Matz in a position where he could just kind of do whatever he wanted, and gave him the ability to build up an economy that allowed him to remax immediately. Because you can't just let Zerg do whatever they want.
Absolutely. And what of the Zerg player? What
Well,
kind of
as a
things could it be improved upon?
Well, as a Zerg player yourself, I mean, I feel like you'd have a little better insight onto what he could have done better. I mean, he did win the game, but do you think there might be? I mean, it was a long game, and I felt like there were the spots where maybe the game could have ended faster. At what point do you think that the Zerg player could have maybe pushed, or do you think that that his patience was what won him the game in the first place?
I think that his macro is very solid. Um, but for some reason mid game it seems like his minerals were a little bit out of control.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like as I was saying, like he had that big bank, but I felt like he had kind of a bank the whole game. Um, and it is, Zerg is the race that is allowed to have minerals, but you're supposed to have those minerals in anticipation for something specific. And I felt like he had too many minerals just in general. He was good at expanding. He was good at securing his bases, but building the production necessary to use, or not the production because he's a Zerg player. He uses larva, but using his larva correctly, I felt like he didn't use it as much as he could have because I felt like he had too many minerals the entire game instead of the concept of building a bank and using your army to pressure and rebuilding and pressure and rebuilding. I felt like he was maxed at 200 for too long. Like he uh, he wasn't always constantly rebuilding. He had his whole army, and he wasn't pressuring enough to need his minerals because you have to be in a position where you need your minerals so that you can always be getting towards that end goal of killing your opponent.
Absolutely. The Protoss player actually moved out when he was maxed at 200, but
Mm,
the Zerg player even when he was pretty much maxed and having a lot of bank, he still played relatively passive there.
right. I mean, that's something that a lot of people have trouble with. Like, no matter what race it is, you always feel like it's always scary to go out there and commit yourself because if you commit yourself and you lose your army, you're in a position where you could lose, and you don't want to lose. But um, that's actually counterintuitive because you're holding back, you're not pressuring, and every second you wait is a second where you allow your opponent to get a better army. Every second you wait, your opponent gets stronger. So even when you feel like even when you feel like oh, I just don't want to risk it right now. That's your risk is only getting greater unless you're constantly building units, because if you're not building a unit right now, you can bet that your opponent is, and you're getting weaker and they're getting stronger. So unless you have a very solid timing in your mind, you have to push, because if you don't, that's going to be at your detriment 100% of the time.
Absolutely. But also I do realize that both Spectre and Matz are very macro-oriented players, and
Correct.
so they use defense as a good offense, which can also work.
Oh, it can.
But
I feel like, I mean, both players took a fourth base before a conflict went down, and I feel like that's I that's not usually how the game is supposed to be played. You can, there's always the third hatch before pool. There's always three bases. You can be macro oriented, take three bases, push out with a big force. But to be so macro oriented where you have four bases, which isn't even supposed to be taken until your main is completely mined out, to have four bases before any big engagement is extremely. It's just very passive, and I feel like both players really should have tried to be. I mean, you don't necessarily have to be, super aggressive, but I felt like being both players, their passiveness was a detriment to both players.
All right. So, lesson for
Lesson,
today is be somewhat aggressive.
yeah, or yeah, just like at least a little bit.
Just a tiny bit. I mean, even just sending one SEV
Yeah,
or one worker to just
yeah.
kill something.
Maybe some Hellions to deny creep, or maybe maybe a stalker, a mothership core, and a zealot. Just take it over there to see what kind of damage you can do. It's never, especially like in this case, the early three base while he droned up, that tiny force that actually probably could have done some good damage. He only had a few Zerglings on the field for a good long time. Those are the kind of teeny little pushes that you wouldn't think would do much, which actually can do a lot of damage.
Absolutely. Also, you can also employ some kind of psychological warfare, such as
Mhm.
setting in one overlord to vomit creep on one of your
Yeah.
opponent's buildings just to taunt him.
Yeah, at least if you're not going to harass his economy, at least delay his economy. Uh, throw up some creep on his expansion, or just all over his base, just to show him what's what. At least show a presence.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that was a very long game and a
It
long
was a long
session.
cast. It was, but it was worth it every single minute. And to just in case anyone's still wondering, there were a total of 16 indeeds, and that makes 17.
Not bad at all.
Not bad and all indeed. 18.
All right. My name
Okay.
is Sharp Eyes,
And I am Crucifix.
and until next time, what was our tagline again?
Oh my gosh, this is WeCast.
Well, there's
Where
another line.
there's a tagline where you cast and we play. Is that what you're talking about?
No, that is the intro line,
Oh
actually.
my gosh, what's the outro line?
The intro line is, until next time, keep on playing.
I didn't know that. Okay, keep on playing, guys.
All right.